That was a song called Fear. It's from the brand new album from the Shins. The album is called Heartworms. We're talking with James Mercer. And as we went into that song, we're talking a little bit perhaps about decisions that people make out of fear. This is your interview, not mine, but I can relate to that. Because I think as we go through our lives, perhaps as we grow up a little bit, we can look back and go, oh man, I didn't realize, because perhaps I wasn't mature enough or grown up enough to understand what was going on. As you've evolved as a songwriter over the last couple of albums, perhaps, coming into Heartworms, where were you at as you sat down to start putting songs together for this album?
I was I was pretty exhausted by touring. I had just spent a year touring a cycle for the Broken Bells record after the disco. And I guess I had some trepidation about what exactly the Shins were going to be this time around, what I was going to do. I had a lot of blank pages in front of me. And that slowly gave way to a period of creativity. I got into kind of a cycle of waking up in the morning and helping the girls get ready for school and then sending them off, and I'd have some alone time because my wife would be with the new baby. So I had some quiet time in the mornings, so I'd drink my coffee and sit at the breakfast table and work on the music, work on the songs. Always still procrastinating the lyrics, of course. But so it was nice to have this regimen and sort of a pattern.
Are the lyrics the hardest part for you?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Do you write and rewrite?
Yes, and I write a lot more that I end up scrapping and not using, like more verses, stuff usually.
You mentioned Broken Bells, which seems to have become an equally important part of your career. Mm-hmm. When you're writing for Broken Bells, how different is that as opposed to writing for the Shins?
It's very different. I do everything with Brian, so we work together and we bounce ideas off of each other. And we have Kenny and Todd in the studio with us, and we're just sort of throwing down ideas. Even if it's a lyric, we're both writing in notebooks, and just it's a real partnership.
So it's much more of a collaborative process.
So collaborative, yeah.
And when you come back to the Shins, it's a band when you tour, but essentially when you're writing,
yeah,
it's
that whole beginning process is me alone generally. And so this time around, there was a lot of learning. I mean, there was technical learning that I had to do, learning to use my software properly, and opening up the manuals for the new compressors I had bought and things like that.
How much of a studio geek are you? I mean, obviously you use technology. But
I get there. I get into that geeky mode, and I do enjoy having conversations when I'm in the thick of it with other people or just with more experienced engineers. But I'm not like Yuki Matthews, who mixed the record, who's a proper geek about gear, and he really is into the technical side of it more than me.
Let's talk about the next song that we're going to play, which is Mildenhall. Now, I had the good fortune back in November, I think, to be hanging out with Ian Montone, who's your manager, and he was playing me some of the
That's so cool.
Some of the songs in his car. I hope that's okay.
That's awesome. Yeah. But I love when Ian does that. He'll do that with me sometimes too. And you get to hear stuff way ahead of time.
He got a brand new car, and he didn't quite know how to use the sound system, which I loved. And it was pretty funny as well, because he had a baby seat in the back of this very cool new Audi.
Rich people problems.
Yeah. A new dad. And he was trying to figure out how to operate the sound system, and this was one of the songs he played for me, and he told me a little bit about the story behind this song, but let's hear it from you.
Well, it's basically a country song, the structure of it, and just the sort of sound and the little sort of hooky,
it's very simple
song. And it's really straightforward. Like you say, I mean, the melody was something that just really appealed to me. I really love things like Buck Owens and Merle Haggard, the simplicity and the directness of some of those songs. It's really elegant, I think. And so I had this part, this the music, you know. And to me, I felt like it really needed to be a very straight, true story. And the thing that popped into my head, and probably nostalgic, something nostalgic. And so my memories of moving to England as a teenager and, you know, sort of going through the upheaval that is, and then coming out of it and finding something that turned out to be a really positive influence on me and an inspiring thing, basically, which is falling into the music scene in England. So
I was going to say, so what was your story of moving to England as a teenager?
Right. So my dad's an Air Force guy. He got stationed at 3rd Air Force at Mildenhall Air Force, RAF, Mildenhall over there in Suffolk. And so I moved over there. I was a really shy kid, so I didn't meet anybody for the first year. I was 15.
Okay, so that's a pretty important time.
Totally. I was just getting into cool music, just barely. Right. There was a girl down the street from us when I lived in Albuquerque during middle school, and she was into The Cure.
Right.
Because her parents were hairdressers and they had hip people coming into their shop all the time.
But so all of a sudden you're 15 and you're in England.
I'm in England. I'm in the thick of it, you know. And I walked into a Woolworths at one point and bought The Queen is Dead, you know. But just like it says in the song, a kid gave me a tape during that period of time when I was so shy and so closed off, gave me a tape, and it was the Jesus and Mary Chain Psycho Candy, and it was just kind of like, I mean, I saw it as an invitation, like, you look like you are cool, you know, you might be cool. And it was, it was, you know, one of those moments where somebody turns you on to something cool and you feel sort of touched, or it's some sort of flattery that they even thought to include you in on what they obviously hold dear.
And you're in England, which was weird.
Was weird, yeah.
But at least the music was cool.
But the music was great. The music at that time, it was in I think a really interesting moment. It was kind of as the Smiths were about to phase into the Morrissey era.
Right.
But there were all these little indie bands like the Pastels and kooky noise bands like Silverfish and band called the Telescopes, and these bands I as a 16-year-old, I could go see these bands and I could have a pint even.
A pint, you know, sneaking in.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We could, you know, if you have a friend who's 18, you can actually buy a bottle of vodka.
Right. Yeah, the drinking laws leave a lot to be desired in the UK. But as a 16-year-old kid, and you're just finding yourself and into adolescence, it's all kind of mixed, really, isn't it? Like the music and discovering
the music, and I was into skateboarding,
and
it was a lot of fun.
Let's listen to the song. It's Mildenhall. James Mercer is our guest from the Shins. The new album is called Heartworms. I'm Nic Harcourt, and it's KCSN.